Tall and Small Collection, Season 2, Chapter 38. A Little Theo-ry. Ray managed to make it back home without incident and, thankfully, found Ashlynn on her own. He still felt frazzled from his encounter with Theo, but he needed to talk to Ashlynn and Soren about what happened. He didn't want a situation where no one knew where to find him, just like what happened. Especially if Hero refused to help him. Ray couldn't keep a real secret to himself anyway, meaning it was only a matter of time before Ashlynn or Soren asked him if there was anything wrong. Ray slid down his line and walked past the living room and into the kitchen where Ashlynn was preparing lunch. "Hey, Ashlynn," called Ray. She looked down over her shoulder and watched as Ray approached. "Hey there, little big man. What's up? You're just in time for lunch. Dorian is recording and Maisie needed a bath. She thought getting into the honey while Soren and I weren't looking was a good idea." "Ugh, that girl," said Ashlynn. Ray knew what was coming, but let the moment sink in as he watched Ashlynn wash off her hands, kneel, and offer a palm for him. For just a moment, Ray felt his entire body tense and shudder as he looked at Ashlynn's hand, the flashbulb memory of being picked up and held by not one, but by two humans he didn't know, making him hesitate just for a moment. Then, after a breath, he once again saw Ashlynn's hand in front of him and stepped up onto it. Ashlynn carefully raised Ray up onto the counter, noticing his momentary pause, but thinking nothing of it. As she set him down, she knew he was out, but didn't want to pry too much. Besides, Ashlynn had another thing she wanted to discuss with Ray. "So," said Ashlynn, as she resumed cutting while Ray made himself comfortable on the counter. "Remember how we were talking the other day about ways to help Hero? Well, I think I found the perfect person to get started with. His name is Theo. He just moved into the building. He has a little sister and is actually in a wheelchair. I met him on the elevator yesterday and started thinking about it today." Ray felt his insides drop at the mention of Theo's name. He knew why he came here and what he needed to tell Ashlynn. So, like a verbal band-aid, he decided to get it over with. "Yeah, I know about Theo. Hero and I saw him, the day of the incident. We were going to go and help him, but there wasn't much we could do at the time," said Ray. Ashlynn's face brightened, which felt like a punch to the gut. Anxiousness plagued him and made him feel sick. His heart rate quickened. "Well, that's great. I'm sure he could use some help. Why don't you ask Hero if he'd be up for dinner with us sometime and see if he'd be interested in going to help Theo?" Ashlynn suggested. "Well, I just came from there. Both places, actually," muttered Ray. He reached up, as he had seen Soren do so many times, and awkwardly scratched the back of his neck. It was a dead giveaway for both Soren and Ray, trying to find a way to say something that was particularly difficult, wording their next phrases carefully. "Oh no. What?" asked Ashlynn. Ray bit his lip and knew that he needed to pry this verbal band-aid away soon. "I went over to see Hero today. I was just going to see what was going on with him. He seem like... I don't know. He doesn't seem to even want to get out of bed. He's super sad, and I don't know if he wants to help humans anymore," said Ray. Ashlynn's face fell ever so slightly, and Ray decided to continue. "And so... I went over to Theo's place to help on my own. I thought that maybe Hero would come along a little later. But something else happened instead." Ashlynn's eyes widened. "Ray, you weren't Ray knew exactly what the next words were and nodded. Sane, yeah. And a bit more than that if I'm being honest, he muttered. Ray wasn't sure if he felt disappointed in himself or if it was dread for Ashlynn's reaction, but he elected to avert his eyes and continue. I saw the girl's broken toy and saw the pin and spring fall in between the floorboards. I got them and was being super careful and Ash... I didn't hear her. What? Ashlynn immediately crouched and tried to catch Ray's pale blue eyes in her own blue-gray gaze. Are you okay? Her fingers immediately crested over the edge and lifted Ray's arms so she could inspect him lightly. Yes, I'm all right, muttered Ray, but I'm not done. She managed to get her hands on me. I was in the attic of some kind of dollhouse and she blocked my way. I played dead and pretended I was a toy, and she bought it, but Theo, he knew I wasn't a toy. Ray! Ow! He laid his finger on my chest. I tried holding my breath, but I wasn't prepared. And he talked to me immediately after before letting me go. Finished Ray. He called me a little and made some kind of weird comment about me not having a tail, but he did let me go and warned me not to go helping Bella. That's his sister. He held you? Ashlynn said disbelievingly. Her eyes were as wide as kitchen plates, and that was saying something. Yeah, the girl, Bella, thought I was some kind of toy. She was gentle, sure, but I think it was because she didn't want to break some kind of new toy. It sounded like Theo made most of the things she has because she brought me immediately to him, asking if she broke me, stated Ray, feeling his heart racing as he remembered the sound of the girl's curious voice. Ray, heavens above. I'm glad you're okay. Well, scratch that whole idea about... Well, wait, muttered Ray. He couldn't believe what he was thinking, but it wasn't the worst idea he ever had. Wait, what? Ray, you aren't going back there, are you? Ashlynn asked incredulously. Ray folded his arms defensively and looked away before looking back up at Ashlynn. Think about Hero and Sam, pointed out Ray. They're friends, right? He proved that he could keep me against my will, but he decided to keep the secret and let me go. Maybe this is a good thing. If Hero knows that something could have happened to me and it didn't, wouldn't it restore his faith in people not being terrible? Ray, you hear yourself, right? Asked Ashlynn. This is exactly what happened to Hero. I don't want you to get hurt, and I'm not going to have you go through what he did. I don't want you to get caught and taken away. I don't want that either. But Ashlynn, you said that he would be a good person to help, right? Doesn't this make it, easier? Ray sighed. I get it. It's my bad and everything just happened with Hero. It's a bad idea. I'm out of my mind. But, Ashlynn, I can get a reading off of people really quick. Call it intuition from a borrower or years of experience. But I know a good one from a bad one. And I know he's one of the good ones. Ray, Ashlynn, you've got to trust me on this one. I had the same feeling with Sam, and honestly, when you and I first met, both when you fished me out of the trash and when we had our first talk, argued Ray. Was I scared out of my mind? Yes. Did I think I was going to die? A bit. Maybe it heightened my senses or something, but I believe Theo is one of the good ones. Ashlynn bit her lip. Her entire chest felt tight. She She did not like the idea of Ray going off and helping a human who saw him, who knew of him. At the same time, Ray seemed adamant. He seemed to believe that Theo was all right. She gave him a hard look before nodding slowly. "Are you going to talk to him?" Ashlynn asked. Ray unfolded his arms and placed his hands on his hips. He looked eerily close to how Soren would get when he was contemplating something. "I'll try not to, but I might have to," said Ray. Ashlynn nodded slowly. "Are you asking me to keep this a secret from Soren?" she asked. Ray shook his head. "No, I'm going to tell him. It happened, and I own what happened. I also know that he's not going to like my proposition. Still, I think... No, I know it's the right thing to do," said Ray. Ashlynn smiled and stared at the borrower teen. "Gosh, when did you get to be so grown up?" Ashlynn muttered as she reached over and gave Ray a gentle poke on the shoulder. He leaned into the touch, feeling Ashlynn's fingertips against his spine. His body relaxed as he closed his eyes and breathed deeply. Once again, her touch was warm and inviting, and the flashbulb memory of being held by Theo and Bella seemed like a distant experience. Ray hoped silently that Soren, his oldest brother, would be just as understanding. The conversation with Soren went just as Ray expected. Much like Ashlynn, Soren immediately investigated to see if his brother was injured before giving him a scolding about his idea of going back. "And what on earth is a little?" Soren asked, scratching his head before folding his arms. Ashlynn, a quizzical look on her eyebrow, pulled out her laptop and started researching the term while Soren continued to speak. "No, I don't like it. You don't need to go back there, and you don't need to be helping humans. There are plenty of borrowers in the community to help, Ray. Plus, you have your inventing." "I can't do that," said Ray. "Did you not learn anything from what just happened to Hero?" scolded Soren. "Do you want that to happen again?" "Of course not," argued Ray. "But I'm not going to cower back and be afraid either. I know how to handle myself, and I'm going to help Theo. Ashlynn even said that he's in that one chair thing. So even if he sees me, it'll be hard to get me. Worst case scenario, of course. You know what I mean." "And you're ready to take that risk? What if Theo or Bella decide that they want to keep you, like how Lily wanted to keep Hero?" asked Soren. "I don't think he will. He let me go the first time, and I don't plan on having normal conversations with him unless it's necessary. But like I said, even if I talked to him, I think everything would be fine. I wouldn't tell him anything about us," argued Ray. "Whoa. Guys?" muttered Ashlynn as she looked at her screen. I hate to say it, but I think Ray might actually be right about Theo." Both brothers looked over at Ashlynn, Soren with a harsh look in his eyes while Ray looked curious and relieved. What do you mean?" asked Soren. "You can't be okay with this." "I'm not entirely okay with it," said Ashlynn. "But I think that Theo knows more than we suspected." Soren's eyes widened as he felt his heart drop into his shoes. Ashlynn turned her computer around and, immediately, Soren and Ray felt their jaws slacken and hit the ground. There, on the screen, were pictures of both cartoon and realistic-looking people who were standing next to teacups and balls of yarn. Some of them looked a bit comical with large front incisors and long tails like mice, but their attire and stature nearly matched borrowers perfectly. What is this?" breathed Soren. "It looks like a book series," said Ashlynn. There are a bunch of websites and books about these guys called Littles. John Peterson did the series. It seems like they aren't supposed to talk to people, but end up talking to the human of their house. Yeah, here. When they accidentally get caught. If Theo knows about this and the series, he probably knows about the rules and things too. Ray stared at the images in front of him, as did Soren. They couldn't believe it. Someone had written about this, about people like them. Sure, there were differences, but how significant were those differences? Did this John guy actually meet a borrower or borrower community? Well, there you go then. This is probably what Theo was talking about. He mentioned about me not having a tail and stuff. I'll bet this is what he had in mind, said Ray as he pointed to the figures on the screen. Soren folded his arms and shook his head. Ray, if anything, it proves that he's interested. I don't like it, muttered Soren. He looked at the small figure on the screen and found himself turning away once again. I know how you're feeling, Soren. I get it. I just can't explain it. I think this is a good thing. If he knows, he won't tell. Isn't that a good thing? Asked Ray. I can't be unseen, so I can at the very least address it and make sure he knows not to tell anyone, right? Soren sighed and looked into his younger brother's pale blue eyes. Ray had come a long way from the timid boy he used to be. He seemed determined to talk to Theo at least one more time and help him. He wanted to help his friend Hero, and helping a person who wouldn't be able to get to him did seem like the best course of action. Okay, but you have to promise to be careful, all right? I'm not having the same scare happen to you. Let us know where you're going ahead of time, so we'll know where to come looking for you if you don't show up before bed. Deal. Ray and Soren shook hands on it before Soren, the mischievous grin playing on his lips, pulled his younger brother in and got him into a headlock, ruffling his hair relentlessly. Don't forget so, I am still the boss of you, Soren teased. If you wish, Ray said in a muffled voice as he began fighting his oldest brother, thrashing and managing barely to wriggle out of the headlock before tackling Soren. Ashlynn, laughing, snagged Maisie and left the boys on the counter so the two of them could battle it out. Bunny! Maisie cooed as she pointed to the couch. She wanted to play with her stuffed rabbit. Ashlynn obliged, setting Maisie onto the couch and retrieving the stuffed bunny from the nearby blankets where she had been napping earlier that morning. Then, without warning, Maisie cried in her small, babbling voice, Chase, chase, chase! Ashlynn couldn't stop the smile on her face. She just wanted her bunny so she could run with it in her arms. Oh no! What's that? Not that tickle fingers! Ashlynn said as she set her hand down onto the couch, palm down, and twiddled them. Ashlynn was sure that, from a borrower's perspective, her fingers looked like looming columns of death, advancing like a darting spider across the couch. Maisie, on the other hand, was comfortable with Ashlynn's way of playing and squealed with delight as she spun on her heel and ran from cushion to cushion, dodging the fingers and giggling the whole way. In a way, Ashlynn wondered about Maisie, and how friendly she would be towards humans when she got older. Would Soren insist some time away so she learned humans were dangerous? It was one of the reasons the trio had left when the boys were younger and learning their trade. Was it why Ray was comfortable going to Theo now? Would Maisie have to have a scare like Hero to learn how dangerous other humans could be? Or would she ever learn the life of a true borrower? Would she need to learn that kind of life? Ashlynn wasn't sure. What she did know was she would help support and protect all of them, including Maisie, with every fiber of her being. She could only hope that Ray, now that he was getting older, would make the correct judgment calls like his eldest brother. He learned from the best, and now it was time to put it into practice.